So welcome everyone to the meeting of the Partneriaeth Scrutiny Councillor Group on this very sunny morning. So have we got any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Carys-Jones.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any others? No. Excuse me, I seem to be suffering from a cold or something. Are there any disclosures that people have? And if so, Michelle will email out the template for completion. Can't see any hands up, so that's the next item are the letters and the minutes. First of all, can we look at the minutes, and can they've been circulated? Can I have a person to propose that they're a true record of the meeting? Don't be shy. Peter, thank you. There we go. Seconder to that. And Hugh. Great, thank you. And then the other matter then was the just to note the letter that was sent to the group, to the chair of Partneriaeth. The one thing I would say is that the chair of the joint committee has changed from Councillor Price to Councillor Glynog Davis, who is the cabinet member, and I think that is similar throughout Partneriaeth, just for that for you to note. But great, if there aren't any points, we can go on to the main meat of the agenda, and that is to to look at the performance of Partneriaeth Priority 3, support schools and educational settings to develop a range of research and inquiry skills as a key part of their own professional learning. Delighted that Ian Altman, our lead officer, is with us, and Jenna Granville, the lead advisor. I'm equally grateful to welcome Helen Lay, the deputy head teacher, and Mary Francis, the lead from Ysgol Heol Goffa in Llanelli. Welcome to you all. And Ian, I think you're probably kicking off, are you?
Yes, it's just me initially, Chair, if you're happy with that, and then I will introduce colleagues.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Obviously you'll recall during our autumn scrutiny we looked at priority 2 of the business plan, looking at the provision around equity, and we were joined by the head teacher of Birchgrove Comprehensive to give an overview of that particular priority. Priority 3 of the business plan's centred around research and inquiry, and I know the scrutiny panel's taken a keen interest in this work previously. So Jenna Granville, our lead advisor, who is here with us today to give an overview of the work over the past 12 months. The focus is really to support schools and settings to develop a range of research and inquiry skills as a part of their own professional learning, and really to enable schools and settings across the region to use inquiry to establish and maintain that rhythm of learning and innovation and change. And our main role and our commitment really is to support the networks of schools to develop those skills by leading inquiries in their own settings, to promote collaboration across schools, and also to drive that system where schools are willing to take risks and experiment and innovate based on that research and inquiry work that they're doing. So as lead officer, that's where that sits in our business plan as part of our strategic planning. At that point, I'll hand over to Jenna. Jenna will give you an overview of the work, and obviously the report and the evaluation of the work is in your pack, and I'm sure Jenna will introduce Mary from Ysgol Heol Goffa to explain how the work feels from a school perspective, and obviously that's very important for you to hear that as well. So I'll stop at that point and hand over to Jenna. Diolch.
Bore da ar ôl. I just want to apologise first of all. I'm much like Councillor Lyndon Jones. I'm afraid that I also have a cold this morning, so I do apologise if I need to pause at any point. So as my colleagues have rightly said, priority area 3 is all around that development of research and inquiry within our schools. And to me, from the wording of priority 3, it's that last line really, to establish and maintain a rhythm of learning, innovation and change. So really my role has been around that idea of requiring leaders and practitioners to pose a question, to be creative and innovative in ways in which to find a solution to that question they've posed, to make mistakes along the way, because very often when we try to put anything new into practice, things don't work out first time ever. So, you know, that idea of making mistakes along the way, enjoying successes when they come, but also really that main idea of learning through research and inquiry. And as Ian rightly said, I've taken over this role since September, and it has been a real privilege to work within this priority and to support both leaders and teachers on their learning within this priority area. So the first point really of priority 3 was to support the growth of networks of schools and to develop a range of inquiry skills by leading inquiries within their own setting. So this came under the National Professional Inquiry Project, or NPEP as it's otherwise known. And we have 90 schools across the region involved in the NPEP. Now, the way that we managed to do this was very much around not having inquiry sitting as a sideline or an add-on, but rather using inquiry to actually meet an identified need on a school development plan. You know, having just recently come back from a school myself and being a senior leader, I'm fully aware of the amount that leaders have got to do within schools. So it was very important to me that inquiry became something that was integral to the school as a way of meeting the school development plan, as opposed to an extra or an add-on. Through this work, we've seen great things happen, things like in schools such as Mary Immaculate Primary with Lisa Priestley in Pembrokeshire. She's currently developing outdoor learning through her inquiry there, or the lovely Matthew Bannister in Morriston Primary, where he's currently developing the use of the Welsh language through his work with Partneriaeth through Falala training. So that is sort of an overview of the NPEP and obviously of the information that you've received in the report there. Moving on to priority 2, we've got promoting collaboration across our schools to explore and develop approaches to digital learning design. Now, this work was born out of the pandemic and the digital upskill that many teachers had during this time. And it's really about marrying those digital approaches to pedagogy along with our standard classroom pedagogies and looking at how digital approaches can enhance what we do in the classroom. So schools that have been engaged in that work have looked at the impact that using digital approaches, now they're back in the classroom, has had on their learners. So last year we had schools like Ysgol Green Hill in Pembrokeshire, Pembroke Dock Primary again in Pembrokeshire, and Partneriaeth in Swansea, who've both took part in that. And there's a lovely podcast, if you do get a chance to listen to that, that was linked in your paper. This year we have both Hendy Primary in Carmarthenshire, Bishopston, and the lovely Hillgoffer, from which Mary will talk to you about in a moment. Moving on to point 3 of priority 3 then, to drive a system whereby schools are willing to take risks, experiment and innovate their practice to raise standards. So this work has come through the Schools as Learning Organisations Working Group. This has been a real privilege to work with groups of head teachers to promote and to develop the SLO as a means of inquiry within their schools. The SLO is a vital piece of first-hand evidence gathering, and I've promoted it like that it should sit alongside your learning walks, your book looks, your pupil voice. It shouldn't again sit as an extra that schools have to do to tick a box. That's not the idea that we're looking for here. We want to promote it as a means of first-hand evidence gathering. The most common dimension to work with on the SLO within our schools and settings has been to develop research and inquiry. So for me, it really has been a full tie-up of all of my work, because through that work as well, we've looked at developing research and inquiry on a smaller scale within schools and settings, in comparison to, say, the National Professional Inquiry Project. There's a very good reason why I've chosen Hil Goffer Special School in Carmarthen to talk to you today, not least obviously because of the fabulous Mary that's going to come onto the screen in a moment, but because Hil Goffer really does embody and bring to life each of the 3 strands of Priority Area 3. I'm very aware that words on a paper or listening to me talking to you, sometimes it's really hard to bring the work to life. And I feel that Hil Goffer is a great school to do that for you this morning. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mary Frances Jones, who I'm very grateful has joined us this morning from Ysgol Hil Goffer.
Welcome, Barry.
Bore da, diolch Jana. So brief apologies, my deputy head, or the deputy head, Helen Lee, wasn't able to join us this morning. So she's been leading on the SLO project, but we've put 2 PowerPoints into one. And if I share that with you, because I am leading on the NPEP, so it's a sort of a 2-in-1 there. So I'll share my screen hopefully now with you.
I think, Mary, you're on silent, or you were.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Yeah. And can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay.
And the screen is up, yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, so just a bit of context about Ysgol Hil Goffer. We're a special school catering for PMLD and SLD students based in Llanelli. We go from 3 through to 19. We currently have 123 pupils, 14 classes and 77 staff. So we started our journey with inquiry with the MPEP. We joined back in 2020 during lockdown, and that was the first year of our inquiry. So we looked at developing staff's multimedia skills and improving levels of engagement with virtual activities. Everything moved online. Our inquiry evolved as time went on through lockdown. And that was a very successful project. As Jenna said earlier, we had to upskill ourselves very, very quickly there. Moving on then to year 2 of the cycle, and we looked at our statutory annual review process. So what we did each year is, I worked on the NPEP from the beginning, but I brought a different member of staff on board each year so that everybody gets to experience, well, not everybody yet, but you know, that's the plan, that we all get to experience it. Moving on then to year 3, we started looking at progression in our setting and how we were going to gather, measure, track that information. So that's bringing us on to year 4, which we're currently at, and our current inquiry, again, continuing to look at progression. So when we discussed what's worked, what could be better, and our actions, so it's been really nice to be able to collaborate with staff. We've had great support from Trinity and obviously from Jenna. Opportunities for trial and error, which I think is really, really important. It's opened up opportunities for CPD and networking, which has been lovely. Time, as always, can be better, could be better. We've got to make time for it. And we did find that staff involvement. So with the MPEP, by bringing a new member of staff on board each year, we've sort of allowed more involvement. But again, that could be better. And that's something that we've looked at and through the SLO have started to establish now. So our actions were to further SLT support, increase time, and then look at our reporting opportunities. Up until now, we have produced a report at the end of our MPEP project, but we're looking to maybe do a podcast or a website and see how you know, we can push ourselves to produce that end report then. So our current inquiry, like I said, is looking at progression and developing that shared understanding and progression among staff. That's currently ongoing. So working with one of our teachers from the PMLD unit and how we can show that by developing, like I say, the shared understanding from our staff. So one of the main actions coming from the current cycle and previous cycles is developing that shared vision and establishing a culture of inquiry throughout school. So all staff now, through the SLO project, have been challenged with creating or running their own inquiry, which is what I'll go on to explain a little bit more now through the SLO project. So the SLO project we began our journey on the SLO project back in 2022. So with meetings providing an excellent starting point for the discussion with the SLO model and allowing colleagues from a variety of settings or for us to visit colleagues from a variety of settings. We started with the presentation for schools and the school development plan. The SLO project was brought on board with the school development plan. So the first steps in school was to prepare for all staff through the SLO survey. So the TA SLO PowerPoint was presented to staff and to enable them to develop their understanding of the SLO model, what it was in the first place and how the model could be used effectively in our school. Following on from that, we captured staff views, so the SLO link and the hub survey desk, so with the instructions shared with staff and a collaborative approach was key to that success for the SLO model. So Steve Humby's highlights the importance of valuing your team, and it was important that everybody was on board, everybody's voice was heard. The survey provided anonymous and honest feedback, which is crucial for fostering a culture of continuous improvement and driving organisational success. The SLO survey results were shared with staff, and that was everybody. Everybody was involved in that process. All staff worked in groups then to analyse the results on an inset day. Suggestions for improvement were recorded. Team learning and collaboration among all staff. The staff responses were collated and the priority areas for development were identified. It was a really useful day and it was really nice because everybody really was honest. We were sitting in groups, teachers, TAs, everybody was involved, and it was really nice to see everybody giving their opinion. So we identified and implemented the new school vision and values as our initial focus. And they were at the centre of all strategic decisions. And from there, then the action plan and the deadlines were implemented. So developing a shared vision centred on the learning of all learners, and this was achieved. All stakeholders contributed to the new vision and values and were involved in the process of implementing the new vision and values. We held a launch for the vision and values back in June 2023. Pupils, staff, parents, governors, professional colleagues and the community partners all attended, and it was a really, really nice session. So the new school vision and values underpin the culture that drives teaching and learning in the school. With the strategic vision and values in place, the next step could be planned. So during the review and planning meeting in May 23, the SLO survey feedback from staff was discussed again, and it was agreed that the focus for the next action plan would focus on the dimensions to establish a culture of inquiry and innovation and exploration. So this then in keeping with the NPEP action. So the focus was to develop professional learning communities to work on research projects. So suggested areas included assessment, outdoor learning, inclusive education, teaching and learning, and challenging maths pupils. At the beginning of the autumn term, we were lucky enough to have Jenna in to present on the spirals of inquiry to all staff. So staff confirmed their SLO projects and inquiry projects following that. And the scan focus in developing a hunch phase began. This led into the learning and take action phase. The SLO research and inquiry projects linked to the school development plan and performance management targets, and the SLO policy was introduced. It was important to allocate time for the SLO research and inquiry projects in the school calendar. At the end of the autumn term, staff had the opportunity to present their research and inquiry projects. So this is obviously still ongoing. The original suggestions have been incorporated into the research and inquiry projects. We have 19 projects altogether, 2 focused on pupil progress, 8 focusing on developing pupil wellbeing, and 9 focusing on improving teaching and learning strategies. Positive motivational vocabulary has been included in conversations with staff about the research and inquiry projects, and engagement in research and inquiry projects have been connected to all 7 dimensions of the SLO model. CPD training opportunities have linked to the research and inquiry projects also. The collaborative links support the take action phase of the spirals of inquiry process and highlight how other dimensions of the SLO model are connected. So in March, we will be attending, Jenna will be coming in to attend, and we will be hosting the research and inquiry project presentations. So staff will continue with the research and inquiry projects, and the outcomes of the project will be shared during the summer term. This diagram highlights the benefit of using a cyclical process to inquiry-based learning, and the SLO's vision is a motivating force for sustained action and leadership, and the essential ingredient connecting the 7 SLO dimensions. The next steps are an exciting prospect, and we are keen to continue our collaborative approach with the Partneriaeth. Diolch yn fawr, thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Mary. Yeah, there was a message up then, I think, yeah, about sound, and but yeah, it seems to be fine with me, at least. I don't know about you all. Okay, great, fine, thanks. Well, thank you, Mary, for that. Just in case, and excuse my ignorance, SLO?
Schools as learning organisations, sorry.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Open to questions, is it? Unless you want to come back in, anyone, or?
I'd just like to come back in just very, very quickly, just to thank Mary
sure.
for that presentation. And just to obviously, hopefully you can see how all sort of 3 areas or 3 threads really of priority 3 have been brought together through the work of Hilgoffa. And I agree with you, the next steps are very exciting. And if there are any questions, then either myself, Mary or Ian would be more than happy to answer.
Great. Are there any questions? Here I've got some connectivity issues from Hugh. He has got his camera off, and it might be a thought to go out and come back in, perhaps.
I'm fine now. I dropped out.
Okay, great. Are there any questions to Mary at all? Could I come in with one while perhaps people are thinking? Is first of all to thank you very much for that presentation, and for Jenna, because obviously a lot of work has gone in, and practical work that you're actually doing on the ground as well, which is really, really important. And when you talk about digital upskills, I've even got to think of myself. Gosh, didn't we have to learn during COVID? Yeah, but so important in the school setting. When you mentioned there were real successes there, but what didn't work as well, because that might be useful for other schools to learn from that. Not that they won't work in other settings, because just because it doesn't work in one place doesn't mean it won't work in another. But you know, it's useful to give people a bit of a steer what's, you know, not so helpful.
Yeah, so say when we looked at, and it was more the NPEP with myself, it was time allocation, and it wasn't that there wasn't the funding there to release me. It is just being released from class, and making sure that the cover is there, you know. especially being in a special school, the staffing ratios have got to be correct. So, you know, that's maybe something, you know, more personal to us, you know, I appreciate. And then the staff involvement, because I think it's very important that everybody knows if you've got a project going on in school, it's highlighting the fact, and it's making sure that everybody feels involved and a part of it, not just the teachers when you're looking at an NPrep. That all the staff in your classes, but throughout school, can appreciate, you know, what you're looking at, what you're hoping to achieve, but also for professional learning for themselves, because everybody's been brought on board with this project. So what we've tried to do is share it. So if you're confident enough to go and complete your own inquiry, that's great. But if you're not so confident, that there is somebody that will take the lead within the little group and the teachers, and some of the more experienced level 3 TAs are happy to do that. So it's, you know, sharing good practice through school, isn't it, to begin with, to get everybody on board.
Okay, great. Well, fine. Thanks. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any other questions? No, I can't see any hands up. So, well, listen, thank you very much for that insightful presentation. And it is an important area because, you know, and we do need to upskill not just the pupils, but staff and everybody else as well, really. So thank you very much for the work that you've put in.
Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Right, the next item on the agenda, number 5, is outline and feedback from the Partneriaeth Joint Committee. And could I welcome Helen Morgan-Rees, the lead director. Helen.
Thank you, Chair. I am going to be speaking in Welsh for the next item, if people want to adjust. O'r gorau, yn nhermau trosolwg o'r cydbwyllgor gynhaliwyd ar ddechrau mis Chwefror, mae yna 5 eitem o ran eitemau sylweddol i roi trosolwg ohonyn nhw. Felly eitem 5 yn y cydbwyllgor mwy diweddar, mae'n werth nodi bod y pwyllgor wedi derbyn llythyr y grŵp craffu hwn, a y grŵp craffu hwn yn adlewyrchu'r sylwadau yn dilyn y cyfarfod a gynhaliwyd yn mis Hydref y llynedd. Eitem 6, cafwyd adroddiad alltro ariannol ar gyfer y flwyddyn 2022-23, sef y flwyddyn ariannol blaenorol. Nodwyd bod cronfeydd wrth gefn gan Partneriaeth, a does dim cyfyngiadau i'r cronfeydd wrth gefn. A nodwyd hefyd na chafodd 195 o filoedd o arian grant ei wario. Fel arfer, mae unrhyw tanwariant grant rhanbarthol yn cael ei gadw ar gyfer y dyfodol, ond y llynedd gyfynnodd Llywodraeth Cymru am yr arian yn ôl. Felly, penderfyniad y cydbwyllgor oedd i gymrydwyo'r adroddiad ariannol alltro ar gyfer y flwyddyn ariannol 2022-2023. Eitem 7 ar gyfer y cydbwyllgor oedd adroddiad ariannol y flwyddyn ariannol gyfredol, sef 23-24, gan gynnwys manylion am y cytundebau lefel gwasanaeth, cyfraniadau'r awdurdodau lleol, monitro cwarterol, felly monitro ar gyfer cwarter 3 oedd hwn i fyny at Rhagfyr 23, incwm sy'n cael ei dderbyn i partneriaeth fesul grant ac unrhyw risgiau a chyfleoedd. Felly, y prif risg a nodwyd gan swyddog monitro ar gyfer materion ariannol partneriaeth oedd y risg bod yr endid yn ddibynnol iawn ar arian grant. Nodwyd yr adroddiad a chymrydwywyd y diwygiadau cyllid parthed incwm grant. Eitem 5 yn y cydbwyllgor oedd cyllid drafft y flwyddyn ariannol nesaf, sef 2024-25. Yn debyg iawn i'r flwyddyn ariannol gyfredol o ran y prif eitemau i drafod, a cymrydwywyd y cyllid drafft gan gynnwys y cytundebau lefel gwasanaeth. Ond fel y gwelwch chi, mae'n y drafodaethau cenedlaethol ar hyn o bryd yn edrych ar y gyfundrefn ar gyfer consortia addysg ar draws Cymru. Felly mae'n debygol bydd diwygiadau pellach i'r adroddiad ariannol, y cyllid ariannol ar gyfer partneriaeth yn y flwyddyn ariannol nesaf. Ac ar hyn o bryd mae'r cyfarwyddwyr addysg ar draws y rhanbarth yn gweithio i adeiladu cyllid ar gyfer y flwyddyn nesaf. Felly, eitem 9 yn y cydbwyllgor oedd diweddariad y swyddog arweiniol, sef Ian Otman, a fe gafwyd diweddariadau ar y cynllun busnes, y cynllun strategol ar gyfer rhannu gwybodaeth ar draws y rhanbarth, a hefyd soniwyd am cyhoeddiad y gweinidog. Felly oedd cyhoeddiad y gweinidog addysg ar Gymraeg yn ffres yn ystod cyfarfod y cydbwyllgor, a fe glywyd 2 beth i bob pwrpas. Un, bod yr arian grant oedd yn mynd i'r rhanbarth yn draddodiadol nawr yn llifo i awdurdodau lleol, a hefyd bod na ystyriaethau cenedlaethol ar gyfer dyfodol consortia. Bydd mwy o wybodaeth gyda ni cyn bo hir ar yr eitem hwnnw. Felly nododd y cydbwyllgor diweddariad y prif swyddog. A'r eitem ola hoffwn nhw dynnu sylw'r grŵp craffu ato yw'r cofrestr risg, a fi'n gweld bod hwnnw'n eitem ar agenda heddi beth bynnag. Ond nododd y cydbwyllgor y proffil risg ac yn arbennig nodwyd 2 beth o ran tebygolrwydd canolig ac effaith uchel o ran risg. A'r 2 fater hwnnw yw tebygolrwydd o ran diffyg eglurder am swyddogaeth partneriaeth. Mae hwnnw'n risg, dyw e ddim yn rhywbeth sydd wedi digwydd, ond mae fe yn risg. A hefyd unrhyw ganfyddiad yn y dyfodol nad yw partneriaeth yn darparu gwerth am arian. Felly na'r 2 risg yn nodwyd yn benodol ar gyfer y cydbwyllgor. Felly dyna'r trysolwg, gobeithio bod hwnnw yn rhoi blas i chi. Mae'r cofnodion drafft o'r pwyllgor diwethaf, cydbwyllgor, ar gael yn gyhoeddiedig ar wefan Sir Gar, Cyngor Sir Gar, os ych chi eisiau edrych ar unrhyw fanylion pellach. Diolch.
Thank you very much. Can I open that to questions? I've got a couple as well. But any questions from any members present? Can't see any hands up. Can I kick off then? Obviously, you said the national discussion about the consortia is underway, but this will obviously, as you say, will be part of that risk register because it creates instability, not least for the organisation, but my thoughts are with the staff in Partneriaeth as well, because they've been through an upheaval with ERU, and I think we all had views on ERU, but a lot of those lessons learned with Partneriaeth, and obviously there's instability for the staff, and you may find that some staff look to move away from their current roles, which could put the role of Partneriaeth into jeopardy. So that's a serious risk, really, and that discussion, so-called, needs to be done pretty quickly and not dragged out, for the benefit of pupils because of the work that Partneriaeth does throughout the region, and also very importantly as well for the staff, because I'm concerned about their well-being as well if they think of this sword of Damocles above their head, and it's not good. I think Helen is frozen. I hope it wasn't the question. Sorry, you froze then, Helen. I said, I hope it wasn't the question.
No. Ydw yn bosib i fi ymateb?
Can, please, yeah.
O, diolch. Diolch Cadeirydd. Na, mae'r cyfarwyddwyr yn bendant yn rhannu rhai o'r pryderon sydd gyda chi o ran materion sensitif yn ymwneud â staff a'r dyfodol ar gyfer endid partneriaeth. Felly, fel cyfarwyddwyr, i ni wedi cyfathrebu ar 2 achlysur i sicrhau bod staff yn ymwybodol nad yw'n ddymuniad gan y cyfarwyddwyr i ansefydlogi pethau yn gyflym o ran partneriaeth. I ni eisiau gweithio'n gydwybodol ac yn dryloiwr ac yn synhwyrol o ran symud gyda unrhyw benderfyniad o ran maint a siap partneriaeth yn y dyfodol. Felly ni wedi bod yn bwyllog, yn cyfathrebu, yn briodol gyda'r staff yn partneriaeth, a ni wedi gosod her ar gyfer y cyfarwyddwyr i sicrhau bod ni'n adeiladu'r cyllid sy'n rhoi eglurder ynglyn â staffio erbyn diwedd mis Mawrth eleni. Felly ni wedi gosod her o ran sicrhau bod ni ddim yn oedi gyda unrhyw benderfyniad sy'n effeithio ar staffio eleni. I ni yn rhagweld fel cyfarwyddwyr na fydd yr endid sydd yn edrych fel partneriaeth heddi yn edrych yr un peth o fewn 5 mlynedd efallai yn y tymor canolig. Felly ni yn ymwybodol bod mwy o ryddid gyda ni nawr fel cyfarwyddwyr o ran y grant yn llifo mewn i awdurdodau lleol, bod na fodd i ni benderfynu faint i ni eisiau comisiynu o ran gwasanaethau rhanbarthol. I ni'n gwbl glir mae prif fwriad partneriaeth yw sicrhau bod na ddarpariaeth rhanbarthol ar gyfer dysgu proffesiynol yn ymwneud â'r cwricwlwm a datblygu arweinwyr yn ein rhanbarth. Felly, i ni'n gwbl glir beth yw'r swyddogaethau priodol, ond hefyd i ni yn ymwybodol o'r diffyg arian sydd gyda ni yn coffre ar lefel lleol. Felly mae rhaid i ni i gael rhyw fath o gydbwysedd i sicrhau bod ni'n symud ymlaen yn cydweithio ble mae synwyr cyffredin yn dweud bod cydweithio rhanbarthol yn rhywbeth yw ymestyn, ond hefyd mae rhaid i ni fod yn ofalus yn hermau faint i ni comisiynu yn y dyfodol. Gobeithio bod hwnna'n rhoi eglurder i chi.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, no, sure, but my only concern is it does bring instability, and I think that you could be destabilized, not through, because people will think, gosh, what is happening tomorrow, and they may be looking for other appointments elsewhere, and therefore the role that Partneriaeth now fulfills, you may find that it's not going to be able to fulfill those needs in the future. So, the national discussions, as I say, so-called, could create a lot of destabilization, and that could affect pupils throughout the region as well. Because obviously this model is now being used in schools. And I think I am personally concerned about that, to see, that we need a decision quickly. And I think something that will go for the long term, not the short term, because, as I say, we move from Beru to Partneriaeth in a couple of years. And, what is tomorrow and how long is that going to last? I think what teachers want throughout the county, and I'm sure parents, is that they want stability. And that, because it does affect their children. And I am concerned about the well-being of the staff as well. But...
Diolch, Deirydd, jyst i roi tymed bach o sicrwydd i'r staff falle, a hefyd i'r grŵp craffu. I ni wedi mynd trwy'r cyfnod pontio rhwng Erw a Partneriaeth fel disgrifiwyd yn gynharach. Felly, i ni mewn sefyllfa ffodus o ran yn rhanbarth ni i gymharu dy sawl rhanbarth ar draws Cymru. Felly, mae'r gwaith sydd wedi digwydd eisoes i sicrhau bod ni'n gwbl glir am swyddogaethau partneriaeth yn helpu gynnal ni ar gyfer y dyfodol. A mae rhaid i ni gofio bod y cyfnod pontio yna wedi bod yn un eitha dirys a hir o ran ailffurfio sefydliad. Felly ni'n gweld hwnnw yn fonus bod ni wedi mynd trwy'r cyfnod pontio hwnnw yn barod.
Sorry, any other questions at all? No. Therefore, could I say thank you, Helen, for that report. Thank you very much. And could we move on to the next item on the agenda, item 6, and that's the Joint Committee's Financial Affairs, Risk Management and Governance Arrangements. Ian and Helen, I don't know who's going to go first.
I think it's me, Chair.
Okay, Ian,
Yeah.
the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Just picking up on some of the points Helen's already made from the Joint Committee papers. The financial report firstly, and then it's the risk register. So both those documents are in your report pack, and I'll go through each one. Then I'm happy to take any questions along with Helen. I'm sure. So the financial report was part of the reporting for the Joint Committee on February the 2nd. And that contains an overview of the current financial position of Partneriaeth, or the financial position at the end of December 2023. So that reported that Partneriaeth received a total of 28.25 million in income. That includes the regional consortia grant of 26,650,000. 21 million of which is passported directly to schools and LAs through the Education Improvement Grant and the professional learning designated for teaching staff. So the vast majority of that budget is passported to our schools. There were no local authority contributions in 23-24 to the organisation because these were funded by our reserves, and these contributions fund our service level agreement and other running costs of the organisation. The remainder of the grant then is utilised for business planning priorities and delivery, as well as salaries to meet the agreed needs of our local authorities through our strategic business plan, and also further funding is then directed to schools in terms of projects such as MPEP, and you've already heard about MPEP and the Schools as Learning Organisation work that we're doing, as well as additional schools to work on their curriculum priorities and a range of other projects and work streams. So the funding is allocated to the business plan priorities as follows. Priority 1 is curriculum, and 3.35 million is allocated to that. And again, the vast majority of that goes out to schools, and also there are salary costs here. Priority 2, equity. There was a small grant received of 18,750 for a specific Welsh Government project there. Priority 3, research and inquiry, which Jen has given you the update of today, which the whole priority area is 622,822. And priority 4 for us is career pathways, which is the priority that goes right through for our professional learning for teaching assistants, right through to our experienced head teachers. So it covers a range of different professional learning pathways in that particular area. In addition to that, there is PDG LAC funding that's received and delegated to LAs in accordance with the specific terms and conditions of those grants. So that report was noted by Joint Committee and accepted on the Joint Committee that we had on February the 2nd. So that gives you an overview of the current financial position, and we are on track really to spend the funding appropriately and meet our business planning targets for the end of the financial year. I don't know, Chair, if you'd like me to pause there before moving on to the risk register.
Thank you. Are there any questions to Ian so far? No. All yours again.
Diolch. Again, Helen gave a very quick overview of the risk register. Obviously, it comes to each joint committee as well as each joint scrutiny panel that we have. The update to be aware of really is to reflect the recommendations of audit in 22-23. and also the fact that Welsh Government funding has been received by Partneriaeth now, so that particular risk for this year anyway has been downgraded effectively, because the funding is there as expected, including any of the variations. And I would expect that risk to look different for obvious reasons already discussed as we move into the new financial year. So there's a heat map within the document, and again, the medium probability and high impact areas, and Helen mentioned this earlier on, is that lack of clarity potentially ongoing, that in terms of the functions and delivery of Partneriaeth, and also that very real risk that we're not seen to be providing value for money. And again, I think that is increasingly significant, and whatever our next iteration looks like, I think that will remain there as something that is hugely significant. And the second one is really partly in the light of those recommendations from last year's audit report to have slightly tighter key performance indicators within the business planning process, and they are now in place, and there will be a new risk register now developed in terms of the business planning and strategic planning for 24-25. Diolch.
Thank you very much, Ian. Has anybody got any Gosh, excuse me. Has anybody got any questions for Ian? Oh, okay. Helen, do you want to come in at all, or?
Yeah, just to reflect, just i fyfyrio ar sut mae'r tanwariant yn y gorffennol fel i ni wedi delio dy hwnnw. Felly, i ni wedi bod yn mynnu bod ni'n ofalus iawn gyda tanwariant, a bod ni'n osgoi unrhyw danwariant yn y dyfodol. Felly mae hwnna yn elfen gref o'r cydweithio ar bod yn dryloyw dros materion ariannol, i sicrhau bod unrhyw tanwariant mae Partneriaeth yn methu gwario am ba bynnag reswm, bod yr arian yn llifo nôl i'r awdurdodau lleol, a mae hwnnw wedi digwydd yn y flwyddyn ariannol gyfredol, felly mae hwnnw yn newyddion positif.
Okay, great, fine, it is. Thank you very much. Any questions at all? No? Well, thank you, Ian. And Helen, for that and for the work that's gone in to get the reports together. The next item on the agenda is the letter to the chair of Partneriaeth Joint Committee. So I don't know if Helen and Gareth, Ian, do you want to stay for this bit? So you can escape if you want to. And thank you for your contributions, and see you all soon.
Yeah.
There we go. Right. Michelle has been, during the course of the meeting, has been busily taking notes. And do you, any points that anybody particularly wants to put into the letter? I would suggest that the instability around Partneriaeth is an issue, and I think, as I mentioned, not just for the staff, and that is a serious one, and their well-being, but also the pupils as well. And I'm sure parents will be concerned about the inconsistency of approach, really, because if we're going through another reorganisation, that is an issue. Any thoughts, anyone? Okay, well, what we'll do then, we'll draft a letter, then send it round to you all for approval, and we'll then, we'll then, before we send it off to the chair of the Joint Committee. But I think, obviously the digital upskill and so on that we heard about, that was all good, and important work, but and also I think we should note we do want value for money, because all local authorities are pressed for cash, and therefore, we don't want to see money in any way wasted. But I think it's equally important that we, we make sure that that we get the job done there. Okay, the next item on the agenda is simply to note the programme. And the next meeting is on the 24th of June. So look forward to seeing you all then, if not before in some cases. That will be good. And could I, in conclusion, really thank Michelle for putting all this together, and Linwen, who's been doing the translation, busily working on that. So thanks, but particular thanks to Michelle and to you all for joining us, and see you all soon.